The Mid-Sussex Times reported glorious weather when in May 1900 the foundation stones were laid for our church. In May 2000 the weather was again superb for our centenary weekend of events. Saturday started with an excited gathering of church family members, some dressed in Victorian costume. As part of the celebrations, it was decided to reenact one of John Wesley's famous rides, with Max Gorham performing the role of the Methodist founder.
Looking nice. Can you look at me, young man? Right, thank you. I'll just take one of you on your own.
Soon it was time to set off from our starting point behind the priory, with John Wesley leading the way. A friendly, if slightly startled, reception from shoppers greeted us as we made our way along South Road on a busy Saturday morning. After dismounting, John Wesley, alias Max, led us through the Orchard Centre, where he was to preach to passers-by.
Give me just a handful of people, just a handful of people that genuinely love God, just a handful of people that genuinely love God. I don't care who they are, they're rich or poor, young or old, men or women, as long as they hate evil and love goodness. Why, when there are so many people who do not have enough to eat, where people are miserable and alone, and so many people in this world know nothing of the love of God.
In his day, Wesley was banished from the Anglican community, but would often preach outside in a church graveyard. To commemorate this, our own John Wesley was allowed to deliver another sermon in St Wilfrid's graveyard.
Everyone matters, which is why we care about this town and its people. So, is this a good town, full of godly people? Are your leaders honest and just? Do you care for one another? Do you think the best of one another? And does this town, does life in this town express goodness, mercy, justice and caring?
Leaving St Wilfrid's, it was time to recommence the ride through Haywards Heath. In the 18th century, prior to the coming of the railway, Haywards Heath barely existed, but Wesley did travel on horseback to thousands of towns and villages throughout the country, including Sussex. By the time our church was built in 1900, at a cost of £2,500, a bustling community had grown around the railway and commercial square. Finally, the procession made its way along Perrymount Road and to a welcoming reception at our church. Soon everyone was making their way into the church hall for the opening of the centenary exhibition. On sale was a new publication about the church, its history and its people. A wonderful exhibition of photographs and memorabilia provided a glimpse into the past for our many visitors. Details of all our former ministers were on display, including Reverend W. L. Bennett, the first minister, the Reverend Sam Connolly from the 1970s, and more recently the Reverend Harvey Richardson, as well as our present minister, the Reverend David Winwood. Becky Hardy and children from our junior church recreated the rather stricter life of a Victorian Sunday School.
Now then, children, we are going to begin as usual with a prayer. Please forgive our sins, so that one day we may be before you. Amen. Amen. Well done. Yes, Jacqueline. Samuel. Now your homework for next week. Oh, Psalm 23. I want it read and memorised.
During the weekend, talented church members were on hand to demonstrate a variety of arts and crafts. The delicate touch required for glass engraving was beautifully shown by Sheila McElwain. In the upper room, a splendid display of paintings was exhibited by the church art group. Trevor Fisher invited everyone to try a hand at pottery, and his presentation showed a mastery of this craft.
You spread it with your finger.
Meanwhile, Joyce Hayward displayed the patience required for her intricate needlework. We were reminded that during the Second World War, a canteen for servicemen was established in the church hall. Early in the war, one of the church tennis courts was converted to allotments for the Dig for Victory campaign. From 1941, the canteen ran for 4.5 years, 7 nights every week without ceasing, serving some 250,000 meals. Continuing throughout the weekend, a superb flower festival took place in the church, organised by Jean Dannett and her team of helpers. In 1900, the Middy described the church as a fine place of worship, and it has remained so for 100 years, but exciting changes and improvements are planned to meet the challenge of the 21st century. On Saturday evening, a marvellous concert was performed by the church drama group, where every decade was represented, from Charlie Chaplin to My Fair Lady, from Lionel Bart's Oliver to our very own Spice Girls. Celebrations continued on Sunday with a centenary service when our own minister David Winwood welcomed former minister Sam Connolly. Special music was provided by the church choir and orchestra. All in all, it was a wonderful weekend of celebration and thanksgiving for the past century, as we look forward confidently to the next.